Hey, welcome to another Ask the Experts. Let me just tell, we have a new guest in today. There should be an outlet underneath. Maybe we can even get Kathy to come. Do you see it?
Yep.
Okay. This is his first show, so I think, do you hear us? Maybe we'll get Kathy.
There we go.
Oh, good.
Hey, Kathy.
So, I love when we get emails from you telling us what kind of shows you'd like. We're usually pretty much sold out on shows, but we just got an opening, and it looked like most of you wanted a family law attorney, a divorce attorney, and we found one of the best here in Miami. He can't say that, but we can. The bar doesn't have a problem with that. They just don't want their attorneys saying they're an expert.
And then I can endorse you.
Oh, you could endorse. And then also, we get so much email from Broward, but today's show is going to be on family law, and we have actually decided in the next couple of weeks, because people complain that we don't open it up to callers, but usually, especially with the first-time guests, we want to make sure we get so much out there. So, Sandy Becher, welcome to Ask the Experts. Now, you might want to come up closer to the mic and tell us about your firm. Okay, tell us about your firm.
Hey, Steve. Good to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you and your listeners. I've been practicing law for 23 years. I'm licensed in state and federal court, licensed here in the state of Florida, and also handling cases in federal court all over the country, actually. My primary practice for the last 10 years has been family law, and that's essentially what my firm does. We do high conflict cases, high net worth cases for the most part, but we look forward to helping everybody in family law related matters.
Now, you're here in Miami.
Yes, I'm based
here. But
here.
Do you practice in the Broward courthouse also?
All the time. I'd say right now probably 30% of my cases are in Broward.
Okay. What about Palm Beach? Because we get Palm Beach listeners.
I do. I'd say probably 20% of my practice is in Palm Beach. Yeah, I do quite a bit of traveling throughout all of South Florida, and even Central and Northern Florida as well.
Okay. How long have you been in practice for?
23 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, see, we get the good one, we get the great ones. So maybe you're not, and hopefully you're not looking at a divorce, but maybe you have a friend or a family member, or maybe you're divorced and maybe you're having maybe problems with child support or something like that. And we're going to talk about all that today. See, everything can go wrong on your first time. Is that okay?
Everything's great as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. So when a person thinks about filing for divorce, boy, you're the first one they come to see.
Possibly a family member beforehand or some significant other.
But when it comes to legalities, though.
But yes, when it comes to getting legal advice, naturally the lawyer is the first person that people go to see. Or should go to see.
That has got to be tough emotionally, even for an attorney to see the things that people go through today.
That can be the challenging part of the practice of family law. It can be very emotional. It can be very impulsive. People generally don't act on their best behavior when they're going through these types of very personal conflicts.
You get to see that, too.
You have to really work at managing, all of the different participants in the process. Your client could be their family members, could be their friends, the opposing attorney. Everybody has a role in the process and needs to be managed properly in order for it to be as cost-effective, least stressful, and least conflict as possible, which I think is always the goal. In my experience, taking the approach of negotiation over litigation is always the best way to go in order to make it the most cost-effective, stress-free, and least conflict type scenario for all of the people involved. Unfortunately, sometimes it takes litigation in order to force the negotiation.
Maybe if there's a lot of assets that are involved.
Well, particularly. And, there's a lot of financial investigation that needs to take place. Forensic type stuff. People get very spooked out when they hear forensic because it can be a very intrusive and costly process. And I don't try to employ forensics unless, the case really calls for it and there are significant assets and issues that need to be looked into.
Maybe a wife whose husband, she doesn't feel he's revealing all the assets, maybe. That's when a forensic person would be brought in?
That could absolutely be the case. But, these days more and more it's the wives with the assets as well.
Really? No.
And perhaps the man
Sorry
doesn't
about that, women.
think that the women are being completely forthright
Really? No
about
kidding.
their dealings. So the law has become very gender indiscriminate. And so has society and life itself. More and more every day, women are earning equal or more to what men are earning, or have their own business endeavors involved in their own financial affairs. Also, where now a lot of people are using prenuptial agreements, and everybody has their own financial interests already going into the marriage. Then these things come up as people are dissolving their marriages as well. There are respective financial affairs that need to get looked into.
Are prenuptials, because I know we're going to talk about that a little bit today, are they really solid? I mean, can you really draw up a prenuptial that's going to protect you and your assets? I guess this is before the marriage.
They're as solid as the skill, expertise, and dedication that the attorney who drafted it puts into it.
Okay.
The essential elements for the validity of a prenuptial agreement are that both parties have independent legal counsel, that there's full and fair financial disclosure, and that both parties have sufficient amount of time prior to the date of the marriage to actually contemplate the consequences and impact of the prenuptial agreements. If those elements are met and the agreements are drafted properly, they're absolutely valid and enforceable.
We're sitting here with attorney Sandy Becher. His office is here in Miami. Your phone number is 305-860-5811. That's 305-860-5811. Or you can go to his website at www.sandybeckerlaw.com. You spell it a little bit different. You spell it B-E-C-H?
Yes.
Yes. Because I have friends named Becker. They spell it B-E-C-K-E-R.
Somewhere in my lineage, when countries were changed, the name was changed along the way with the travels of my ancestors.
Okay. 'Cause I have a lot of friends, and I'm from Texas. I have a lot of friends in Texas that I went to school with named Becker.
Right.
So now, how long does it take nowadays to go through a divorce? Maybe there's not a lot of assets involved. Is there kind of are we looking at months? I mean, I know back when I got mine a long time ago, it actually took over a year.
Again, it all depends on whether the parties are in agreement on how to handle, the dissolution of their affairs. If that's the case, and we're looking at essentially a simplified dissolution where there's no or little assets, and perhaps there's already an agreement between the parents on how to handle, the time sharing between them with the children. It's
called time sharing now.
It is time sharing now. A lot of people still call it custody, but there
Right.
is really no legal term in the state of Florida for custody. It has no legal definition.
I know one legal term. It's called no fault.
That's right.
We're a no fault state.
Yes, we are.
And I try to explain to people, it wasn't my fault, but that's not what no fault state means.
No, that's not what no fault state means. It means that regardless of the reason for getting married, it's not going to be, for getting divorced, it's not going to be held against you.
Okay, so we're a no fault state here in Florida.
That's right.
And when it comes to the children, that's got to be the toughest, especially if there's little children involved. Do you, as an attorney, when they come in to sit down with you, are they pretty sure they want the divorce?
It's interesting.
Do you have to play psychologist or marriage counselor a little bit?
A lot, and that's the real difficult part.
Because you've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah,
You've seen everything.
That's the difficult part of the process, because if you really care about the best interests of your client and how their family can get through this most difficult process amicably, peacefully, and with stability for the kids and for themselves, really, it takes on a whole other level when those types of implications bear into, just the mere transactional nature of a divorce case. you really do want to get people through the process, not only financially intact, but emotionally and psychologically intact, because otherwise the remainder of their life is going to unwind itself in any case. You want to see the kids in a good place, and if the kids are in a good place, the parents can usually try to resolve anything else.
On my way over here today, because we do a lot of tweeting that we were going to have you on our show today, and I actually got someone who asked me to ask you a question. If there's domestic violence, do you contact a criminal attorney or a family attorney?
It depends on the scenario. Naturally, if you've been arrested as a result of a domestic violence incident, you want to immediately contact a criminal defense attorney. As far as my practice is concerned, the first 10 years of my career, I actually only did criminal defense.
Is that right? Okay.
Yes, and that's still a lot of the work that I do in federal court.
Okay.
So when I mentioned earlier that I handle cases around the country, that's generally in federal court in criminal matters. And you're right, a lot of times these issues do overlap, unfortunately, the criminal with the divorce type stuff.
So maybe someone like yourself who has a background in criminal law as well as family law would be the best way to go.
I think so. I think so, because we're able to spot the issues and navigate those landmines in the respective courts and handle the processes with the insight necessary to make sure that all the issues addressed in either the family court or the criminal court are going to be consistent and manageable for your client.
How long is your first consultation usually?
It depends on the nature of the situation. Obviously, if there are assets around the world or around the country or different types of businesses and financial dealings, you're going to engage in a much more extensive, detailed, and deeper initial
Yes, I'm getting
consultation.
you charged for your first consultation.
But as far as the general initial consultation, it's about an hour, and I don't charge the initial consultation. We sit down, I listen to what all the issues are, and then from there I'm able to lay out a roadmap of what I think the costs would be in your case.
And you mostly just do family law?
Right now I do probably 70% family law. The other 30% is criminal.
Okay. I got to tell people something, because I made the biggest mistake of my life about 25 years ago. I hired a college friend of mine. And I'm telling you, it was the worst experience, because you're friends and you don't, I mean, there's certain things maybe you don't want to share, but I went that route, which was the first mistake I made. And I also looked at the price. I'm telling you, you have got to get someone right up front who's good. Do not try to do this yourself. And third of all, you know what? Don't just look at price. I understand, people have a budget, but it's so important. I meet girls all the time, women all the time, who tell me, wow, I didn't spend a lot on the attorney. He had a better attorney, and I just, I should have thought this out more. And I have regretted it from day. I should have fought harder, and they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, this is, when you reach a divorce, it's generally the crossroads, the conflict of your life. You're at a real critical moment, and it's not the time to be penny wise and pound foolish. If that's how the saying
that
goes.
Makes sense, yeah.
Because you really do get what you paid for. And any little mistake or incorrect strategy could really cost you a ton of money. So it's important that you are sure that you have secured the right attorney, and sometimes that may take paying a little bit more, but it won't cost you in the end, and you'll end up in a better position.
A lot of people, it's been 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago since they have divorced, and it still is affecting them today. And so we're going to go to break, and when we come back, we've got attorney Sandy Becher with us. He's a family attorney here in Miami. His phone number is 305-860-5811. His website, he's got a great website, www.sandy, he spells it SANDY, Becher, BECHER law.com. We'll be right back.
Sandy B. Becher, PA is a premier family and divorce attorney. The legal team at Sandy B. Becher, PA is sensitive to the legal battles their clients have to endure. They recognize that every case confronts different challenges that require complete focus and attention to every detail. They aim to provide the most valuable legal guidance as cost effectively as possible. With his 23 years of experience as a family law attorney, Sandy B. Becher has handled hundreds of cases in and out of the state of Florida. In the area of family law, Mr. Becher has also provided outstanding legal representation in paternity, divorce, custody, and international child kidnapping cases. When going through a divorce, representation is the most important decision you can make. Let attorney Sandy B. Becher handle your family law case by contacting him at 305-860-5811. That's 305-860-5811, or go to his website at www.sandybecker.com.
And we're back. I deal in about 7 different studios, and the on-air sign is everywhere. And they've got this great sign here. It's right above the clock, and I'm for some reason I'm looking over here. There it is. We're on air. Hey, we're here live in studio. Ask the Experts is on every Saturday, as you know, from 1 to 2. We have some of the finest lawyers, doctors, financial people on our show. We have live in studio today. We have attorney Sandy Becher. He is a family attorney here in Miami. He also practices in Broward and Palm Beach. His phone number is 305-860-5811. Go to his website. Check it out, www.sandybeckerlaw.com. And within the next week or so, he'll actually have today's show up on his website so you can go back and listen. You know, we're here in Miami, so do you speak Spanish?
I do. My family's from Argentina, so I actually grew up speaking Spanish as my first language. And thankfully, because I would say probably half of my clients now are Latin.
Well, I got to tell you that because I'm also a restaurant critic. I love Argentine food, and the meat that Argentines use, without a doubt. Like the flank steaks. There's more and more restaurants opening up in Broward, which I'm from, that have a Argentine menu.
Yeah, it's great food.
Wonderful food.
Great steaks.
Yeah, unbelievable. Can I get into about pricing and all? Because
Sure.
Can you kind of tell us about how you charge? I mean, I'm sure it's by the hour, but...
Yeah, I mean, essentially, what we do is we take an initial retainer. Again, it'll depend on the initial consultation and the complexity of the case. What we do is take the initial retainer and then bill you on an hourly basis. We'll send you a bill at the end of every month that outlines the hours spent and the monies reduced from the retainer. And then as the retainers are spent and the hours accumulate, you go ahead and replenish the retainer as you go.
Gotcha. Okay. I like the fact that you want to stay out of court, because when you get into litigation, it does get quite expensive.
It gets very expensive, and it generally tends to drive up the stress level between the parties, which usually drives up the acrimony and conflict between them, and doesn't get the people closer to a resolution. Unfortunately, the truth is that in litigation, most of the time, it's the lawyers that end up winning.
I understand.
But it's also a necessary evil at some point to get to the people to a realistic place to try to settle their
differences. Especially if there are a lot of assets or there's small
right.
kids involved.
That's right. And oftentimes one side may take an unreasonable position that the only way to combat is through litigation.
Is there alimony in Florida?
Yes, there is.
Okay, there is alimony.
Absolutely.
Because the state I'm from, Texas, there is no alimony.
It's a beautiful place.
Yeah. But, if you're a good guy, you want to help out the wife besides just child support. Now, I got another question that's not even on our list today because I got it from Twitter. Grandparents. Why do grandparents have no rights?
The reason behind it, I couldn't really tell you. My feeling is that it's complex enough to get the parents on the same page that if we now get, what a lot of people referred to as, unfortunately, the peanut gallery, which is the, grandparents, siblings, extended family, and friends.
But they've built up a relationship with their grandchildren. And now all of a sudden they have might not even have rights to even see them anymore.
Well,
depending on who has.
There would be no reason to prohibit grandparents from seeing their grandchildren, but certainly they don't have a legal standing to exert certain legal rights that would attach to their relationship with their grandchildren.
I'm surprised grandparents haven't fought that in the court of law, because they do have developed. Some of them were right there when the child was born, and they could be 15 years old now. And
that's right, but to the extent it is in the best interests of the children to have a relationship with their grandparents, that issue can always be raised before the court. And again, if a judge determines that it is in the best interests of the children to maintain that relationship, they will go ahead and order that they do spend time with their grandchildren if that is requested. And there's no reason to prohibit the contact between the grandparents.
The greatest law that they could come up with now is, and this for the husband or the wife, you're not allowed to put the other one down to the kids.
No, the non-disparagement clauses are standard in all our agreements.
That would have been a great law, because there's a lot of parents who abuse that.
Yeah, and it's not the law, but certainly, like I just mentioned, in every one of my agreements, I have a non-disparagement clause, because you need to try to foster good relations.
So you actually put a clause in?
Oh, yeah.
That they cannot put the other one down?
Absolutely. There's no limit, essentially, to what you can agree to put in your contract. I regularly see things like, you will not call anyone else mommy or daddy or things of that nature. You can get very, very, very detailed.
Wow.
And there are multiple provisions within what's called a parenting plan, which is essentially the marital settlement agreement that relates to all the children's issues within the marital settlement agreement. It's called a parenting plan. And there are multiple provisions in that address the fostering of good relations with the children, the fostering of good relations between the parents, the non-disparagement of the respective parents to the children, not discussing each other's personal affairs with the kids or using them as messengers, things of that nature. I can tell you the Florida state legislature has really done a good job at going out of its way to make sure they're implementing all of the rules and laws necessary as public policy to protect the well-being of children. I'm proud to say that I sit as on the board of directors of an organization called Kidside, which runs the Family Court Services division of the Family Court. And what we do is we provide pro bono therapeutic counseling and all sorts of services to children in high conflict cases that wouldn't ordinarily be able to afford those types of services.
I am so glad we have you. Wow.
It's great to be here.
No,
that's the part of my
this
practice
is something
I'm
I've never
most
even
proud
heard
of.
before, is because it was a problem in my marriage too, especially if they're not living with you, and mom's putting dad down, he's not there, and it's not fair to put the kids in the middle of it too.
Right, and unfortunately it happens all too often. And like they say, since we're talking about criminal and family law, in criminal law you always see the worst people at their best, and in family law you see the best people always at their worst.
That makes sense. I totally understand that.
So, a lot of people's anger and emotion is situational and subsides over time. So people aren't acting the way they normally would act, under normal circumstances. So you do have to have some rules in place and some guidelines in place to deal with the children in order to, at least during this high conflict time, keep everybody as peaceful and as sound as possible.
Well, speaking of guidelines, how do the courts determine child support?
It's essentially determined by the mother and father's respective incomes, and then there's a whole formula that's worked out pursuant to the Florida state legislatures' child support programs. But it's essentially based on the relative income of the parties and then the amount of time sharing that each of them has.
Now, what about when a child turns 18? Does it get reduced at all here in Florida?
What happens is when a child becomes an adult or is emancipated, then
Is that 18?
yes, that's 18, or if they have not graduated high school, it's when they graduate high school, or 19, whichever comes first.
Okay.
So at that point, you just have no obligation to pay child support because they're no longer a child.
So, but what if you have 3 kids? Do they take a percentage off when the first one turns 18?
What happens is when one of the children is emancipated, the guidelines, the child support guidelines, get recalculated, taking into account that that child no longer has to be supported any longer.
Okay.
So, and then it gets modified.
Okay.
Down.
That's the way it should be.
Right.
When I got my divorce long ago, it could have been set up like that, but the laws were different then. And I ended up having to pay the same amount till my last child turned 18.
Did you
That
do
was-
that by agreement?
Well, that's what my attorney said. My friend told me to do that.
Right.
But the laws at the time...
That wasn't me.
No, absolutely. But the laws... in
Although it's
Texas,
not a bad thing that you paid the child support.
Yeah, I mean, I paid...
Better that than the alimony.
And I'm going to tell you something, and I know you tell your clients this, pay the child support. Pay
Absolutely.
it. You can get in a lot of trouble. I have some friends
And
of
it's
mine
the
that
right
got
thing
behind.
to do.
Yeah, it is. You're absolutely right. First of all, I got to tell you, we only have a few minutes. I love the way you do business. This is going to become probably one of our best shows. Again, tell people where you're located at.
I'm located in Edgewater, which is essentially just outside of the Design District and Midtown. It's 31st Street and Biscayne Boulevard, 3050 Biscayne Boulevard, Suite 402 on the 4th floor. That's in Miami, 33137. Beautiful offices. Would love to help anybody that's listening.
Well, you know what? Anybody who listened today has got to feel comfortable, because you got to feel comfortable with your attorney, especially with something like this.
Trust is everything. Open line of communication is everything. Accessibility to your clients is everything. We're in a very emotionally charged business, and things happen between the parties at any given moment. People are laying in bed late at night with all sorts of issues racing through their mind and feeling scared and worried, insecure. They don't know what's going to happen next. And you need to be available 24/7. I am 24/7.
You got to have some tough skin, too,
I
don't you?
essentially run a legal emergency room.
Exactly. Well, a friend of mine used to practice family law. He said, "Listen, I made a great living at it, but I couldn't take it. I couldn't handle." He said, "You have got to have some tough skin."
You got to have really tough skin, and you got to really want to help people.
Exactly. So again, we've had Sandy Becker's with us, attorney Sandy Becher. His phone number, write this down. You might have a friend, that, and they could live in Boca. You want to give them Sandy's name and phone number. It's 305-860-5811. Check his website out. You've got a great website. Whoever did
Thank you.
did a wonderful job. There's a lot of great information on there. It's www.
I have to thank my wife for that.
Oh,
one.
okay. Well, she's going to have some more work to do.
Yeah, she's
in the
an amazing
next couple of
designer.
days. It's Sandy. That's Sandy Becher. I'm going to spell it for you. It's BECHER law.com. That's BECHER law.com. So if you've got a family law problem, maybe you're having some problems with child support. Maybe you didn't like your attorney the first time and you want to change attorneys, give Sandy a call. He'll be back with us again next month. We'll be right back. Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you.
Sandy B. Becher, PA is a premier family and divorce attorney. The legal team at Sandy B. Becher, PA is sensitive to the legal battles their clients have to endure. They recognize that every case confronts different challenges that require complete focus and attention to every detail. They aim to provide the most valuable legal guidance as cost-effectively as possible. With his 23 years of experience as a family law attorney, Sandy B. Becher has handled hundreds of cases in and out of the state of Florida. In the area of family law, Mr. Becher has also provided outstanding legal representation in paternity, divorce, custody, and international child kidnapping cases. When going through a divorce, representation is the most important decision you can make. Let attorney Sandy B. Becher handle your family law case by contacting him at 305-860-5811. That's 305-860-5811. Or go to his website at www.sandybecker.com.
WCAB Sweetwater is 880 The Biz, where money talks. A service of Salem Media Group and part of the Wall Street Business Network. On Twitter at 880 The Biz.
The following program is provided by Ask the Experts.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show with local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Join us every week at this time for great educational information from lawyers, doctors, contractors, and specialists in their field. Sit back and enjoy the next hour of Ask the Experts.
Good afternoon. Hey, we've been gone for the last couple of weeks. We're live here in the studio. I don't know why I love doing this show so much, because there's nothing happy about it, but we're going to be doing a show today on family law, and we have our family law expert in it with us, Sandy Becher. Becker. Why do I keep saying Becher?
That's okay.
I mean, I said today the whole way over, make sure, because I've got friends named Becker. They spelled Becker. That's how they spell it.
Listen, when you're a guy and you grow up with the name Sandy, you learn to have tough skin about your name.
Oh, yeah.
So it's all good.
And, we were just talking. Well, you've handled, and we're not going to go into, because I got so many questions for you, but you handled a lot of celebrities and big names here in the Miami area.
I have.
You must be doing something right to get recommended. And you told me you had a case in Martin County, because you're right here in Dade, though you do Broward and Palm Beach cases.
I do.
So wherever you're listening from today, I'm sure Sandy handles cases in your area. We're going to be talking family law. And first, Sandy, I want to ask, tell us about your background and how you got started. Why did you choose family law? Because you were a criminal attorney.
I was a criminal defense
still
attorney
are,
and still am, but for the first 10 years of my career, I was solely a criminal defense attorney. Then, unfortunately, I had the unhappy circumstance of getting divorced myself, and thought to myself, wow, this is another real meaningful way of helping people through very difficult times in their lives. And if done properly, it doesn't have to be as unhappy or as negative or as detrimental to the future of the people involved as it could be. So I just thought that that would be a good way of transitioning it into a new area of practice where I could really impact people's lives in a more positive way, even though under very bad circumstances.
You have to have tough skin. We were just talking
really
about
do.
that, because I've been doing this for almost 10 years now, and a lot of the family attorneys actually got out of it, because it's a tough business when you have kids that are involved and you've got the feelings and emotions involved, and you're right there in the middle of it.
Yeah, well, like we were talking about earlier, you're dealing with people's most emotional, personal, and intimate situations and their children. And there's nothing more important to people in this world than children. In other cases or other areas of law or other situations in life, the loss is primarily monetary. And, once people get to divorces in their lives, they've gone through enough situations where they realize money's the type of thing that comes and goes. But your family and your children, that's really what should be most important to you. So.
You're a good little Jewish boy, aren't you? No, that is
Jewish
very,
Argentinian lawyer, so don't hold it against
me. That's very true. Now, your office is here in Miami.
I am.
Where are you located at?
I'm located at 3050 Biscayne Boulevard. That's in Edgewater on the corner of 31st Street and Biscayne Boulevard.
And let's give everybody right now, we'll be giving it throughout the show, give everybody your phone number and your website.
It's 305-860-5811, and the website you can just go to sandybecker.com.
So I was telling you, we do a lot on Twitter, and we tell people who are looking at Twitter, if you have a question, we'll use it here in the show. And I was telling you, the biggest two questions were grandparents' rights, or asking if they had any rights, and prenup. So let's start off with grandparents. Give them the bad news.
Well, in the state of Florida, grandparents have no legal rights per se. which has its pros and its cons. Oftentimes you have very concerned grandparents, very loving, caring grandparents who perhaps have issues with how certain parenting is happening and really would like to bring that to either a court or some agency's attentions to see if they can positively affect the child's life in some real, helpful and meaningful way. In the same respect, oftentimes what you see in family law is as people discuss matters or expose a lot of times what's called the peanut gallery to how they're parenting or how certain issues are being addressed in their families, you get lots of opinions. And oftentimes the multitude of opinions from the peanut gallery could create real tension and confusion within the nuclear family unit itself. So, there are pros and cons to grandparents trying to exert their influence into the raising of the child. But here in the state of Florida, ultimately what was decided from the legislative level is that grandparents should not have legal rights.
So if a grandparent wants to see their grandchildren and the mother doesn't, in her mind, say they're a bad influence, she could literally keep them from seeing?
Well, again...
unless there's half custody, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
they
again,
could see him and the
there
father.
is another parent involved, and to the extent that parent thinks it's detrimental to his children to not have a relationship with either set of grandparents, and the mother wouldn't be able to show any real valid reason as to why the kid should not be exposed to the grandparents, and the other parent certainly can ask the court to enforce the ability for those children to have contact or a relationship with their grandparents.
Okay. Well,
on behalf of the children.
Right. So another question we have, I've got a lot of them, so I'm really going to try to get most of them in, was prenup, and I was just telling you, I just heard an attorney tell me that everybody should get a prenup. Do you agree with that?
I don't like to speak in absolutes. Every case is different and all circumstances are different. So, I really like to evaluate and assess each case on a case-by-case basis to determine what's the best scenario for that situation. However, I will say this. As people are getting married later in their lives, and as they're more established in their careers and accordingly have amassed more possessions by the time they're married, or at least have a very certain idea of what they have planned or their goals are for their financial futures as people come to marriage, I think it is a very good idea for everybody to lay out where they're at financially and what is already theirs and make that clear by way of a prenuptial agreement, and also lay out in the future what would happen in the unhappy eventuality should there be a divorce. And I think by doing that and everybody knowing what has already been established going in by each of them individually and what is expected of the two of them should things not go right, it alleviates a lot of tension and uncertainty during the time frame of the marriage, where there doesn't have to be concerns on either side. If in fact real serious problems arise where people start to consider the potentiality of their separation, the tension in and of itself of not knowing what will happen in the event of a divorce, or just being very concerned about the cost and stress and emotional impact on the children in the event of a divorce, all of that is alleviated if you have a document going in knowing exactly where you stand and then exactly where you'll stand in the future should this happen.
I think she was also saying that you never know what's going to happen. What if you win the lottery tomorrow? Or what if you're in an accident and you get a big settlement? She was kind of saying you just never know.
That's right. And to the extent you want the marriage to be established for a certain period of time or under certain parameters because there's a certain amount of children already, you may not be ready to prematurely share some of those gains that you think haven't necessarily been warranted at that point in the marriage.
Well, I know you don't have the time to go up to Tallahassee and talk to state representatives. Is there a bad law that you think in the family law courts that you wish you could change?
Is there a bad law? Well,
A law you do not agree with that you wish you could change if you could go to Tallahassee?
it's not so much that there's necessarily bad law. I sometimes think there are bad interpretations and judgments made on the law.
Okay.
So ultimately, the standard in family law is the best interest of the child, as it should be. But I don't think that all the time that standard is followed as it should be.
Okay. I heard family law courts are just packed on a daily basis. Is that really true?
Unfortunately, they are.
Wow.
Yep.
See, there's a lot of people who've never been through a divorce before, have no idea what's involved. We got some time the first half. So I come to you. I want to hire you. Do they come into your office and is there a sit down face to face and you have questions? How does it work?
What we do is we have an initial consultation, which essentially consists of, a first meeting between us where you give me the whole background to how you met your spouse, and go through the chronology of events within your marriage and within your respective careers, the caretaking issues for the children, if there are any, and essentially have a dialogue about all of the potential issues that there are in the marriage and in the impending potential divorce. Once we discuss that, which depending on the complexity of the issues in your case, which could be the amount of children, the disparity in ages between the children, the amount of assets that you have, whether you have a career or not, or whether your spouse has a career or not, who's been the primary homemaker or caretaker for the children, so on and so forth. There are a lot of things that are potential issues within a divorce. So once we're done talking about that, within generally an hour to 2 hours, and I'm able to understand exactly what are the issues that are going to have to be addressed in your case, we can kind of assess the time that would be required, although one never knows how reasonable the other side's going to be and how much litigation they may potentially cause unnecessarily. We can start to talk about, what I think ballpark the case could cost over time.
So usually what's the time span between sitting down with them and actually filing for divorce?
It depends on the personal desire of the person that you're meeting with. A lot of times people are coming to kind of get their head around what the issues are and start
Maybe
to...
cold feet a little bit?
Yeah, well, not necessarily cold feet, but, just at the point where they're starting to want to go through the process of understanding their rights and responsibilities if they move forward. Or there are people who get to you and in their mind they've been divorced for 3 years and want it done yesterday. Assuming that's the case, again, depending on the complexity of the issues and the multitude of the issues, we could have a petition for dissolution of marriage filed, anywhere from within a day or two to within a week, depending on, again, the issues.
We're going to go to break. Before we go to break, you speak Spanish.
I do.
So that's like really...
It's actually my first language.
No kidding? Okay. Yeah. So Sandy also speaks Spanish. He has an office here in Miami. He also practices in Broward and Palm Beach, actually throughout Florida.
I do.
So give everybody your phone number again.
My phone number is 305-860-5811 or 305-860-5811.
And your website?
Is sandybecker.com.
Okay. We're going to go to break. When we come back, I've got a lot of questions for you, Sandy. We'll be right back.
Sandy B. Becher, PA is a premier family and divorce attorney. The legal team at Sandy B. Becher, PA is sensitive to the legal battles their clients have to endure. They recognize that every case confronts different challenges that require complete focus and attention to every detail. They aim to provide the most valuable legal guidance as cost effectively as possible. With his 23 years of experience as a family law attorney, Sandy B. Becher has handled hundreds of cases in and out of the state of Florida. In the area of family law, Mr. Becher has also provided outstanding legal representation in paternity, divorce, custody, and international child kidnapping cases. When going through a divorce, representation is the most important decision you can make. Let attorney Sandy B. Becher handle your family law case by contacting him at 305-860-5811. That's 305-860-5811, or go to his website at www.sandybecker.com.
And we are back. We're here with attorney Sandy Becher. He is a family attorney. He also handles criminal law. Most of his practice is family law. He does criminal law and family. He's got an office here in Miami, and he also practices in Broward and Palm Beach. And we've been talking for the last 15 minutes about questions that we've gotten on Twitter, ones that we've gotten more than just one. What's really good also, Sandy also does speak Spanish. So when a person gets a divorce and there's kids involved, the courts decide how money's going to be distributed for child care, I guess what it is. How do they decide that? Is there a formula?
There is somewhat of a formula. It's called the Florida State Child Support Guidelines, and essentially it is kind of a long-form formula that goes through different aspects of percentages regarding the respective income of the parents.
Net or gross?
Gross.
Gross.
Well, actually, no, I'm sorry, it's net.
Net, okay.
It's net available income. And then they take into consideration the percentage of overnights that each parent has with the child, also who's paying health and child care expenses, extracurricular activities, things of that nature.
Okay. So there is a formula that, so you're not going to be able really to fight that at all?
No, there's no real leeway to fight child support.
I know.
I had
that
again,
in
it's
Texas.
a matter of interpretation in terms of what your actual income is. That's where the fight is, where people are trying to prove what other people are making.
Well, it should be about the kids. And I know when I got my divorce, it was about the kids. The only problem I had with it at the time was when they turn 18, they're not going to college, that it should be reduced, because it wasn't in Texas at the time. Now, when the first child turns 18 in Texas, it's 25% less, second child 20%. But they didn't have that because my divorce was a long time ago. And I didn't think that was fair, because first of all, if you know you're going to help your kids out anyway, you don't even need a formula. Tell me, what is, when you're going through the courts, is it a one-day trial, or do you even have to go to court?
The idea of the way the court system is set up is for you to hopefully mediate your case and settle it.
What does that mean?
Mediate.
I mean, I know what mediate means, but
To mediate your case is essentially when you attend what's called a mediation, and that's an opportunity at a settlement conference where both sides with their lawyers meet with a mediator, somebody who's a neutral party who listens to both sides and understands their view of the case the way they see it.
is this a profession? Professional?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Oftentimes,
this is what they do, is they mediate.
Oftentimes it's a licensed attorney who
Okay.
also acts as a mediator, but in this case, rather than representing one of the parties, is a neutral party that meets with everyone in confidence. Everything is strictly confidential, and nothing that's discussed during the mediation could be used as evidence in court at a later date, so that this way there could be an open free-flow conversation and dialogue and negotiation of all the issues, so that hopefully the parties who know their own lives better than anybody can come to some agreeable, workable solution or settlement between them that resolves all the issues in their marital estate and regarding their children. The system and the rules are set up for that to hopefully happen. In the event that does not happen, then that's when a final hearing or a trial date is set, and that's where parties litigate all those issues in front of a judge, and then the judge makes a decision on what to do regarding each and every one of those issues.
I've had a couple friends of mine and one of them has money. I mean, he's done very well for himself, but they try to save money with a divorce. And one of them actually said, whatever her attorney says is fine with me. Well, he doesn't say that anymore, but that's what he did. And one actually tried to handle it himself. And from all the shows I've done with family attorneys, there's a long list that's up here, upstairs, that you would probably never even think about if you were trying to handle this yourself. So saving of money, just tell people who want to try to represent themselves.
Well, it's never a good idea to represent yourself. On the other hand, I can't say, as someone who represents a lot of high net worth individuals and business people, that it is a bad business decision to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to be a little bit more generous or more thoughtful about how I'm going to resolve this in lieu of paying that difference to the lawyers. Okay? And this way the other spouse feels that they got a good deal. It's done amicably. It's done peacefully. It's done without stress to the children and to the family in general. However, that is also a calculated decision in terms of to what extent financially, numerically, you're going to be generous, because you don't want to do it to your own detriment and your own future, because that's not going to be good for anybody either. So that being said, you shouldn't be looking to save money on representation, but through your representation, you can be looking for angles and ways to save money and resolve your case in a very fair way.
Mediation seems like
that serves
one of those
everybody's
things.
purpose. Absolutely. And that being said, my position in all cases is negotiation over litigation. Okay?
Right, because litigation can get...
Because litigation, number one, could get extremely costly. It generally drives the people further and further apart and doesn't get people to resolve their family issues and their lives any quicker. It drives up the tension level and the stress. It doesn't allow people to move on in their lives. So, you'd really like to negotiate as much as possible to get to a resolution. However, if the other side is being unreasonable, and regardless of what you propose, they're unwilling or unable to settle the case for whatever reasons, you have to push litigation, because sometimes the only thing people understand is pressure and being forced to have to act. And
I'm sure emotions get in the way a lot too.
And emotions get away in the lot.
Sometimes
also.
you don't make the best decisions.
That's right, and that's why you also need very good representation who is going to give you honest advice at every single juncture of the case, and not simply tell you what you want to hear. Because oftentimes, what will happen is somebody falls at, an attorney will fall in the trap of just telling a client what they want to hear just to stop listening to the complaints. But that just gets the case more costly and more problematic.
You have this kind of this voice that kind of makes you feel more comfortable, and I'm in good hands. So I like that.
Well, speak to my ex-wife about that. I don't know.
God, I wish we had more. I'd open the phone lines up. We've only got about 5 minutes left. Your job is really to tell your client different, I guess, ways they can go, but they still have to make the final decision.
They do.
Is that the way it works, really? It should work?
Absolutely. You can assess everything and give your client your best judgment. But again, it's their life. It's their children, it's their soon-to-be former spouse, and how all these issues are going to impact them, and within the context of their, marriage within their own life, and how that's going to relate going forward, is really a very personal decision on a lot of issues. So you lay out what you think tactically is the best game plan to achieve their personal goals, but in the end, whether or not you push some buttons is a decision by the client.
When someone comes, you've done so many divorce cases. When someone comes to you, can you tell if they're really ready? Or maybe they should take some more time? Maybe, I know you're not going to say go see a marriage counselor, but can you tell when they're really ready to take this next move?
I suppose in my practice, when they come to me, they appear to be very ready.
Okay.
Already. But I do see instances of people who, again, are just at the point where they're ready to hear what their rights and responsibilities would be should this occur, and aren't necessarily themselves ready at that point. And it's obvious who's in that mindset compared to the person who's ready to go.
Because sometimes when we get mad, we say things we don't mean. And I would think maybe sometimes, I'm getting a divorce. Well, first of all, it's not that easy. And it's a big decision. I go to Calvary Chapel, and listen, that's not what we want. We want, the husband and wife to try to work things out, but sometimes you can't always work things out.
Right.
And I realize that. But you've seen so many cases, though. I want to ask you, do you also, if there's family violence in the house, I know you probably do because you handle criminal too.
Sure.
Is that criminal or family law?
If the person's been arrested, then they're looking at
It's criminal,
having
then.
to defend a criminal case.
Okay.
Or if it was their spouse that was arrested, then they've been the victim in a crime, or at least allegedly. If there is some form of violence where there's no arrest, and there's a potential domestic violence injunction that could be petitioned for and enforced through the civil court, then that's quasi-family, quasi-criminal.
Okay.
Related.
I don't know what I'm hearing. What am I hearing? Okay. Oh, that's okay. Not mine.
That would be odd for me to go a half hour without my phone.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true too. So let's give everybody your phone number.
305-860-5811, 305-860-5811.
And you got a great website, by the way. I went all through your website. I mean, you get a lot of great information on there.
Yeah.
How do they get to your website?
SandyBecher.com. That's Becher with an H. SandyBecher.com. SandyBecher.com. My wife did my website. I've got to give her a shout out.
I got to tell you something. Please, please, please do not choose your attorney because he's on the first page of Google search. That does not mean they're the best attorney. That's what's so great about a show like this is you don't have to go Google somebody. He can't say this, but I can because the bar doesn't have anything to do with me. But he's one of the finest family attorneys here in South Florida, and this is one time you want to make sure you've really got somebody, whether you're the wife or the husband, you want to make sure you have someone really, really competent, able to represent you to the fullest. Let's one more time give everybody your phone number.
305-860-5811, 305-860-5811.
He's such a show off. That's really good, though. He does know Spanish. We're going to go to break, and we come back. We've got our next show. It's going to be Michael Puchadas, and we're going to be doing, he's our public adjuster, an attorney who's a public adjuster. We're going to go to break, and we'll be right back. Thanks, Sandy, for coming on.
Thank you so much.
You'll be back with us next month.
Happy Easter or Passover to everybody I missed over the holidays.
Thanks.
Sandy B. Becher, PA is a premier family and divorce attorney. The legal team at Sandy B. Becher, PA is sensitive to the legal battles their clients have to endure. They recognize that every case confronts different challenges that require complete focus and attention to every detail. They aim to provide the most valuable legal guidance as cost-effectively as possible. With his 23 years of experience as a family law attorney, Sandy B. Becher has handled hundreds of cases in and out of the state of Florida. In the area of family law, Mr. Becher has also provided outstanding legal representation in paternity, divorce, custody, and international child kidnapping cases. When going through a divorce, representation is the most important decision you can make. Let attorney Sandy B. Becher handle your family law case by contacting him at 305-860-5811. That's 305-860-5811, or go to his website at www.sandybecker.com.
Our show now is